Hello, yes, that's right. It's Joe here for JOYRIDER TV, back with some more scintillating Q&A as the sailing season in the Northern Hemisphere is certainly looking like it's about to kick off. But the sailing season in the Southern Hemisphere looks like it has provided some absolutely electrifying conditions. I just was watching earlier a video on the channel Totally Immersed TV. You should check them out. From a Hobie 14 event in Australia. So well worth a look there, Totally Immersed TV. Yeah, so the biggest news, well, not the biggest news, but something, if you're in the USA, if you're in Texas and you're not busy this weekend, there is somewhere you need to be. And that is, sorry, just go check. It is Somerville Lake, Texas. This weekend, that is where you need to be, because this weekend is the Ides of March regatta, Somerville Lake, Texas. If you've got a boat on your trailer, not doing anything this weekend, then why not just hitch her up, check out the Facebook group, get down there and get involved. You haven't got a boat? No problem. Just head down there and soak in the atmosphere, see if you can get involved in any way. Perhaps you can help out on a committee boat or a mark boat or on land or something, or just go and hang out with a lot of like-minded sailors. So that's this weekend in Texas. All right, so just checking in with everybody who's checking in. And by the way, if you didn't know why you've come here, I'm going to let you know what's going on. This is a live Q&A session where I'm going to be answering various catamaran sailing questions, I hope, from around the world. So if you're lucky enough to be here live, then start getting revved up with your big questions. If you are watching this later on and it's no longer live, then you can put any questions in the comments below, and I will respond to them next week. Thank you. So checking in with everybody who's checking in. We've got Andy and Adele checking in from Brisbane, Australia. Looking forward to getting some sail time today on Moreton Bay. Fantastic. Hope that the wind does the job for you. It has certainly been blowing dogs off chains here this afternoon in Vasiliki Bay, Lefkas, Greece, probably in excess of 30 knots of wind. Due to a lack of various things, it was my first time back on the water today, but not on a boat. I went with the kite because it was just more practical given the amount of time that I had and the amount of personnel available for stuff. All right, we got Philip on board as well. Says, love the new Showtime. Yeah, I think the new Showtime works very well for everybody except for one person, and that is my wife. She's asked if I can move it back to the other time. Perhaps. So what it's looking like is for the next, well, basically until the start of May, I think I'll be able to keep at this time. And then from May until October, I'll have to move back to the previous time. So apologies for that. But otherwise, there might be a mutiny in the household. All right. Andy and Adele say, is there any benefit to having carbon fiber rudders on a Hobie Tiger? Yes, there is certainly a benefit. So the most important benefit is they look absolutely amazing. I did have on one of my Tigers that I had, I think it was back in around 2009 perhaps maybe it was a bit later, but I did have a pair of the black carbon rudder blades from Hobie Cat, the original ones, and it looked absolutely deadly. But is there any actual benefit in performance? Yes, possibly. Two benefits. One is that the carbon fiber, if they are proper carbon fiber rudder blades, they're going to be much stiffer. So it will give you much more kind of precise handling. I know the handling on the Tiger already feels pretty decent, but just imagine if it could feel that bit more decent. But that does, of course, come at a cost. But if there's a set of carbon fiber rudder blades going and the price is good, maybe they're used ones, then I would say it will certainly add that value to your boat if you were to ever sell it as well. The other benefit perhaps of the carbon fiber blades is, unfortunately, the standard blades that you get on a Hobie Tiger, they do have a tendency, well, it's probably for us more than for the rest of the world, because our boats are getting pushed to the limit 7 days a week for 5-6 months of the year. So we do have a lot of our Tiger rudder blades separating, where this is a very good rudder blade point. So your rudder blade is made from 2 halves generally. So if we look onto, this is looking onto the front edge of the rudder blade. Now, what and we've got the join that runs down the middle. While this is all intact and it's well stuck together, this means that the rudder blade is very stiff indeed. But what happens after a time is this glue joint down the middle is slightly prone to separating. So you might see a bit of a space appearing, like up here especially. And once that separation has started, the rudder blade, this is the same on any type of boat where the rudder blades are made from 2 halves like this. If the rudder blade separates, then it means it's going to bend a lot of bending. And when the rudder blade starts bending, the boat is going to feel horrible. You're going to be like, why on earth is the steering so strange on the boat? Perhaps it always wants to turn downwind. This is a symptom of a cracked, separated rudder blade. Perhaps it just feels really heavy, but perhaps you've serviced your rudders over and over again to try to make it feel better. But the reason it doesn't feel good is because the rudder blade is actually cracked and it's bending. So if we put the rudder stock would come to about here, and there's a bolt that goes through there, holding it all together, which means eventually, if you keep sailing it, especially in a heavy wind, if in a light wind, you won't feel it as much and it's not going to deteriorate too quickly. But in a heavy wind, what eventually is going to happen is this part of the blade is quite well supported, but here it goes from being well supported to not supported at all. So that is where the rudder blade will snap. Yeah, so there you go. I know you didn't ask that question, but you got that answer. So, but main thing, carbon fiber rudder blades look very, very cool. There we go. We got Mark and Janet on board from St. Mary's, Ohio, USA. I'm ready for more invaluable advice from the master. Well, good luck to you and everybody else. Hopefully, I've got some good advice to give out today. Got some very interesting preloaded questions, by the way, which I think should tickle you. We've got Mark on board in Northern Ontario, Canada. Great to have you with us. Probably a fairly similar latitude is Declan. Hello, Declan in Stockholm, Sweden. Been a while. Great to see you all. Great to have you on board there, Declan. We got Max on board as well in Rosenheim, southern Germany. He says, hey, to the cat sailors around the world, no wind today on the home lake. Unlucky. All right, Christian's on board. Hello, Christian. Great to have you with us. And Christian has actually come forward with a very interesting question, because Christian is looking at taking on what could only be described as one heck of a voyage. Now, I haven't got the information in front of me about the voyage, but Christian's looking at getting involved with a long distance sort of camping, sailing, raid type event on the west side of the USA, starting, I believe, in Washington and sailing all the way up to Alaska. That just seems absolutely bonkers. Is that even true? Is my geography a little bit out there? But I'm pretty sure that is what Christian said. And Christian's firing in with the first preloaded question, which is, firstly, is the Hobie 16 an offshore capable boat? Yes, but depending on a few things. So if it was a brand new Hobie 16, I would say yes, definitely that boat is worthy of sailing in open sea. Is it safe? Perhaps it can be made safer, of course. So let's firstly just think about it. If it was a new boat, fresh out of the factory. Now, if it was fresh out of the factory, you'd certainly want to use it for half a year or so, I would say, before taking on such a voyage, because there may be, I hate to say it, but there may be small flaws in the manufacturing. I'm sure it's very rare that it would happen, but it could happen. So there might be a flaw in one of the shrouds that's holding the mast up. There might be a flaw in one of the castings that holds the trampoline on, or in the front beam or something. So what you want is to give the boat a reasonable amount of run-in time before you then commit to going on many days of voyage. Yeah, so run it in first if it was a new boat. If it wasn't a new boat, then I would, if it's more than, I don't know, 10 years old or so, I would think, ooh, personally, if I was to do such a thing, I wouldn't want to go on a boat that was sort of earlier than about a 2010 Hobie 16, just because as the boat gets older, there's more of a chance that the hulls might start to delaminate, especially if you're sailing in a heavy swell, because it's sailing in those big seas, which puts the hulls through so much load, so much punishment. As the boat comes up, like if you're sailing upwind, up the waves, and there's a lot of slamming, then each time the boat slams, it's go, ooh, 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 like that. might not even make that noise, which if the hull is already slightly on its way to delaminating, that could accelerate it. Now, what is the problem with the hull delaminating? If the deck delaminates and starts going soft, if you sail in waves or swell and the boat is slamming with a soft deck, what could actually happen if the deck stops providing the support that it's meant to provide, then you might actually snap the hull in half, because the deck is an integral part of the stability and the structure of the hull. Now, what we've actually had happen here, which was actually a manufacturing defect, which we did actually get some new hulls on warranty, but we had delamination in the outside of the hulls, because if you imagine when you're hammering it, there's a lot of, if these are the hulls, there's a lot of load going down through the hull, which is all being taken on the outside. And we had 2 hulls delaminate, so they went soft, and then a massive crack about 1.5 meters developed just during one outing along the side of the hull. And once that crack appeared, the hull filled up with water very, very quickly. And yeah, you absolutely don't want that happening if you're heading out into open sea. The 3 big safety concerns would be, number 1, somebody falling off the boat. And if it's a heavy sea, big waves, very difficult to see your man overboard. So it might be a situation where it is worth considering some sort of tether to stay attached to the boat. Safety concern number 2 is, of course, our old favorite, the mast falling down. So we would certainly be putting on new rigging before taking on such a voyage. And if we were going to be putting new rigging on the boat, if there's a choice of the gauge of the rigging between it being like a 3.5 mil wire or a 4.5 mil, I would certainly feel a bit more reassured by having the thicker of the 2. Replacing lines and things before heading off as well, but again, replace lines and then wear them in a bit, because new rope is notoriously very slippery. And the third concern, so falling off, mast falling down, third concern is if you capsize and your boat is upside down, it is going to be first, well, for anybody else, if there's waves, it is going to be near impossible for anybody to see your boat. And the second concern with inverting is, if it's an older boat, there's a chance that the mast may take in water. And if the mast takes in water, can be very difficult, if not almost impossible, to bring the boat back upright without assistance from some sort of safety boat. So that is the answer to, is the Hobie 16 worthy of going on an offshore on offshore? All right, so yeah, modifications that we could do to make it safer. I think the tether would certainly be a good starting point, and I think I've pretty much gone through that there. So I hope that helps, Christian, in making that decision on whether to undertake this journey. But if you're going offshore so far that you can't see land anymore, then you really do need to raise an eyebrow on just thinking, what if? I think, what if this happens? What if that happens? And this isn't just for Christian going to Alaska on a Hobie 16. This is for anybody going sailing, unless you're going sailing on quite a small lake where if your mast falls down within 5 minutes, you'll be blown onto a shore. But if you're sailing on the sea, you should always, before you go out, just think, all right, have I made the boat as seaworthy as possible? What am I going to do if this happens? If this happens? If this happens? Make it as safe as possible by doing good preparation and having some contingencies in place in case something happens. There we go. Yeah, it's all a bit of fun until your mast falls down with an offshore wind. All right. So also tuning in, we've got Aaron there from a cooling New Zealand. Our season is coming to an end very quickly. Sorry to hear that, Aaron, but hopefully it has been an absolute corker and you've got plenty of good times to cast your mind back to with a small or large smile on your face. All right, we got Thorn G on board. Hello to everybody in the world, hoping to be welcome here as well, since you did not mention the Topcat manufacturer in your description. Well, there are apologies for not mentioning Topcat in the description, but there are so many builders and manufacturers of catamaran. I'm sorry that I missed out on the Topcat. The Topcat is, of course, a very good brand of catamaran with a good range, built in Germany, I believe. And there have been a few Topcats in Vasiliki Bay here for some time, but all Topcat sailors are welcome in the live chat on JOYRIDER TV. There we go. All right. So Philip says, what is the best way to attach the mainsail to the outhaul? All right, Philip, if you let me know what type of boat we're talking about, because otherwise, you know what I'm going to do? I am going to assume it's a Hobie 16. So let's assume it's a Hobie 16. What I would do is just with a bowline. The bowline is a very useful knot because once it's under tension, it's not coming undone. But once the tension's off, you can untie it reasonably easily. So that is what I would say. But if you let us know what type of boat we're talking about, we can have another look. And greetings to Ryan in Maui, who's happy to be here. If anybody's wondering, how is it that Ryan has got his name in green and he has got some sweet emojis? It's because Ryan is a channel member. You could also be a channel member on JOYRIDER TV. There are benefits to it. I'll just talk about this for a second. So there's two main ways of supporting JOYRIDER TV. One is Patreon. Thanks to everybody who is supporting the channel on Patreon. The other is through channel memberships, which we're kind of looking at a similar kind of vibe to Patreon, except you don't have to leave the safety of YouTube. Not that Patreon's not safe, but you might feel more comfortable just staying on YouTube and supporting the channel through channel memberships. So there we go. And also you get your name in a different color and some sweet emojis to use. There we go. Declan says, I'm with you there. Joe's wife bites into dinner time. Oh yeah, so that is Declan, because he's in Europe. So I think the earlier start time popular with everyone in Europe, whereas I think the rest of the world is quite happy for the later start time. Fawn G, apologies to your wife. Okay, all right. I think Declan and Christian are just having a chat in the live chat. That's fine. You carry on, but I just won't. I won't read it all out. All right. We've got Dave on board. Lake Lanier, Georgia, USA, Hobie 16 amateur hour. Great to have you with us, Dave. Hey, Joe, where are you going with that rudder in your hand? I'm going to tune my rudder system because I think I might have separated a rudder blade with another man. Declan says we are working on some neat things for Joyrider TV. Joe will announce them when they are ready. Oh, yes. We have to get things ready before things can be announced, of course. All right. Dave says if you don't have carbon fiber rudders, you're wrong. Wow. Okay. Sell your kids, mortgage the house, buy the EPOs. Yes. I would say, back on the topic of rudder blades, even compared to the all black carbon fiber rudder blades that Hobie used to produce, or maybe they still do in limited amounts, the EPO 3 rudder blades are the finest rudder blades you can put on your Hobie. Now, unfortunately for the Hobie Tiger, the EPO 3s wouldn't be appropriate because they are the wrong shape. They've been built firstly for Hobie 14s and 16s. And it's pretty unlikely that you'd be able to persuade Hobie Cat to build a set of EPO 3s for your Hobie Tiger. Yeah. So there we go. All right. So Scott is on board, Cultus Lake, Oregon. Winter is holding on here in Oregon at the moment. Okay, I'm sure that the big thaw will be coming soon. Okay. There's just a bit of chat in the chat between yourselves, which is making it a little bit more tricky. That's all right, though. We can deal with it. All right. So Dave says open water, the Worrell 1000, Key West to Cuba, the Rough Rider Corpus to Brownsville, FWB to Pensacola and back. Get in on a fleet race, open water. Don't go alone. Wise words from Dave. Yeah, I think any of the organized races which are specific for catamarans, I think the race that Christian is looking at is more of a yacht race. So if it's a race that is specific to small catamarans, there will be adequate safety cover. Now, that is going to make a big difference to the safety, of course. Dave continues, I'm sure the Hawaiian guys go island hopping like 20 or 30 miles of open water. All right. So Thorn G says, I'm trying to estimate the risk of our hobby. How often did you hurt by bumping with parts of your boat? And how often have you been stuck under your boat longer than you would prefer? All right. Firstly, getting banged by the boat. Yes, this does happen. Basically, whenever it is trapezing conditions, this is when these bumps into bits of the boat can occur. You know, one of the guys who was working on the beach here quite a few years ago now, it was just marginal trapezing conditions. So he was really pushing the boat to get as much out of it as possible. He slipped and hit the corner casting of the 16 just below his buoyancy aid. And this was a pretty serious injury where he did have, I can't remember how much, but quite a bit of hospital time following. So even when it's not absolutely howling, yes, we need to be very much, what's the word? We need to respect the sport that we're doing, and we need to appreciate that it has got some risk involved. Now, the problem with marginal conditions is that could possibly be when you're pushing really hard and you're thinking there's not much risk when it's that windy, so you're more likely to take your eye off the ball a little bit and not be as focused. Whereas if you're going out when it's 25 knots of wind, you're going to have razor sharp focus because it's that windy. You know, if you take your eye off the ball, you're going to be upside down within seconds. So very much it's those marginal conditions when you are feeling very safe. I think those are actually just as dangerous in a way as when it is extremely windy. How long have you been stuck? How often have you been stuck under the boat longer than you would have preferred? Well, touch wood. Fortunately, it's never happened to me. I've never been stuck under the boat. I think part of that is because I've always been very mindful every time I've capsized. So it's almost like seeing the capsize happen in slow motion and being able to really plan where I'm going to end up. And I'm trying to pass on that knowledge to everybody else of where don't you want to end up. Good question. All right, Dave says, I've been on a hull failure on a lake. Not good. Open water, we would have lost the boat. All right. Declan has just joined the Joyrider TV. What's it called? Channel membership. Congratulations, Declan. Welcome on board. And you could get some of those. Oh, you have already some of those fancy emojis out straight away. All right. I'm going to get back to the live chat. All right. Scrolling back. Declan says, ever replaced the rudder link bar with carbon rods? On my Tornado, it does have a carbon tube connecting the rudders. So the tiller connecting bar made of carbon. It's a really fancy piece of carbon as well. Looks amazing. But have I ever done it on another boat? No, I haven't really seen I don't think I've seen the point of changing them, because to save a little bit of weight at the back, yeah, not perhaps necessary. You could try, of course. All right. So Christian says, awesome, tethers are required. Yeah. So this is Christian, who's going to Alaska. So I'm okay with a masthead float, and believe it or not, with losing a mast, because I'm going to try to sail it using a kiteboarding kite. Oh my days. Now that does sound like you've just upped the stakes significantly. All right. Definitely many ifs in that case. Oh my word. All right, we got John Claude on board. Hi, Joe V. Shout out from Trinidad. Great to have you with us, John Claude. As always, Dobie's with us. he's just watching. Nice to have you with us, Dobie. Hope you're enjoying what we've got going on here. We got Life on the Edges. That is, of course, Ollie Smith. Do check out Ollie's channel, which is called Life on the Edges, where Ollie's been putting out some short videos just of some of the action from Wild Wind, from Vasiliki Bay. So if JOYRIDER TV isn't enough for you and you're hungry for more, two channels to check out. One, Life on the Edges, and the other one, Totally Immersed TV, which is a lot of race reports from Australia. There we go. But Ollie is currently at Alex's Pizza, where I think my wife is actually there at the moment because I'm doing this. And no pizza for me. Yeah. All right, we've got Stefan on board. Good afternoon from Canada. Hello, Stefan. Great to have you with us. Catmandu is with us from South Alabama. Great to have you on board. Thanks for tuning in. All right, the Hobie 18, Philip says. All right, so we're talking about how to best attach the clew of the sail to the boom. Now, we used to have Hobie 18s here in Vasiliki Bay, and I seem to remember. Now, do I seem to remember? Yeah, I can't. I seem to almost be able to remember, but if this is the clew of the sail, is it like there's a little slider like that? But I think that the slider has two halves, and what we used to do is just attach the clew of the sail to the slider on the boom using what was commonly known as a long, thin clevis pin. So what we're trying to do is have this as close to this, as tight to this as possible. So we're just pinning it straight through. If I'm pretty sure that was the case, because we often had difficulty with lost long, thin clevis pins. All right, we got Lucas on board. Just want to know why my steering is so heavy going downwind. Yeah, that is pretty odd, actually, that your steering is heavy going downwind, but not going upwind. Why would that be? Because if it's a rudder related problem, like if your rudders, basically most common cause of heavy steering. So let's isolate the most. I don't think there's actually any holes which are that shape. Let's have a skeg. Most common cause of heavy steering is if your rudder isn't pulled under the boat enough or into the back of the boat enough. So what we're looking for with the rudder blades, generally speaking, is to have the rudder blade as close to the back of the boat as possible. So if it's like the black one here, that is going to be very heavy. Whereas if it's the red one, then your steering should be very light. But why would it be heavy going downwind and not going upwind? Then possibly if it's in a stronger wind, that might be a rudder alignment issue. So as well as being able to alter our rudders this way, if this is our boat like this, I'll just do the rudders in red. So we can change the alignment of the rudders. And going downwind, the alignment can be what's the word, exaggerated. The feeling you get from poor alignment could be exaggerated, because on your downwind course, that is when you've really got both rudders in the water, the hulls and the rudders all in the water. So that would be worth checking as well. So number one to check is the rudder rake. Number two to check is the alignment. And what we're looking for with the alignment is we're looking for a small amount of toe in. Just to exaggerate what toe in means, let's have massive rudders so you can see it more clearly. Toe in, if we think of the front of the rudders as the toes, we want the front of the rudders closer than the back of the rudders. Not like in this picture, but what we want, if you take a tape measure between the rudder blades at the front and then between the rudder blades at the back, you should be looking for between 5 and 10 mil, depending on the type of boat that you're sailing. If it's a very stiff boat like a Tornado or an F-18, then you want the rudders a bit more parallel. Whereas if it's a more flexible boat like a Hobie 14 or 16, then you want a bit more toe in there. So that's what I would say about that, Lucas. All right. So Scott says, is that off his hands? Out of, all right, he's chatting with Dave. Very nice. All right. He says the comment above about new features was to do with the Discord server. Yeah. So if you didn't know about the Discord server that we've got going on just yet, then yes, we have set up basically a chat room on Discord. Discord is a website or an app that you can get where you can join the Joyrider Sailing Exchange, and you can chat with like-minded individuals on there. But there is more stuff coming on Discord, on the Joyrider Discord server in the coming weeks, but not until we have sorted it out, of course. And yes, Declan is instrumental in coming up with what is coming new. All right. Right, we've got Alessandro on board. He says, do you know if Hobie is planning to build a new Hobie F-18? So sad that they left the F-18 class. Yeah, me too. I think the golden era of civilization was when the Hobie Tiger was winning the F-18 events, but also having their own events as well. And I absolutely loved my days in the Tiger fleet. Really, really good times. But no, as far as I know, there are no plans to do much with the Wildcat. All right, we got Cameron on board. Good day from Atlanta. Great day yesterday, rigging the Maelstrom Tornado. Just a few more items to address, then time to go. Excellent stuff. Glad to hear it. The Maelstrom Tornado is, of course, I believe it is the most popular builder of tornadoes, built in Sweden. There we go. All right, we've got Giles on board. Hello from France. Bonjour. It's good to have you with us. Mr. Tony KP is with us from Denmark. Late again, not a problem. All right, Giles says, what are the parts to change in priority on a hold Hobie 16 to securize it? All right, I think what Giles is saying there is if you were to buy a used Hobie 16 what would be the parts to change in order of priority. So, number one is the rigging, the things that hold the mast up, because having the mast fall down is going to be slightly disastrous, depending, or really disastrous, depending on where it is that you're sailing. So, the first thing that you should change on your boat, and it's not, unfortunately, it's not a particularly sexy thing to change, because you are not going to be able to, you're not really going to see any difference, but you're going to have that peace of mind that your mast isn't going to fall down. Second thing to change, I would say, would be the trampoline. Putting a new trampoline on your boat, whether it's an original Hobie trampoline or a trampoline from another manufacturer, like we were saying last week about Salt City Sailing making Hobie 16 trampolines for under $300. But in France, Forward Sailing is a really good source of non-original boat parts. Putting a new trampoline on your boat really is a massive facelift. It's better to have a new trampoline on your boat than to have amazing polished hulls, I would say. Third one is replace ropes. Ropes, you can, that is something that isn't going to be as expensive. But having said that, don't buy the cheapest rope possible. Where you have the choice for things like the jib sheets, the downhaul, the main sheet, if you can get a quality rope, which perhaps even has a Dyneema core, that is going to make a big difference. It's going to feel much nicer. It's going to have less stretch. The jib halyard on a 16, 6mm Dyneema core, that bad boy is not going to stretch. Things like that. And then after the ropes, it really depends on the condition of your rudder blades. For, you know, the last part of this puzzle is either the rudder blades or the sails. There you go. All right. Christian says, for people who think he's kidding about oh yeah, about putting the kite on the boat, yeah, check out Sam Light on YouTube. But as well as Sam Light doing it with a kite surfing kite on, he did it on a Hobie 18. There's one of the most famous surfers or watermen from Hawaii, Kai Lenny. He put a kite surfing kite on, what type of boat was it? I think it was a Hobie 16, and went between some of the Hawaiian islands just with the kite on the boat. All right, Dave, can you connect me to Cameron later? Yes. So perhaps Cameron, with the tornado, is it possible you could send me an email? That would be really good. Just to, if that's okay, that I connect you with Dave, because Dave is also near to Atlanta, and I think Dave is quite interesting in finding out where you're going sailing. There we go. But if you could send me an email, totaljoyrider@icloud.com, that would be great. All right. So Olive Life on the Edges says, even laser sailing can hurt. Yep, Ollie did go out on a laser today, and it did look reasonably painful. All right, Dave, Hobie 16 Amateur Hour says, can we drink Mythos while chatting on Discord? I'd say that makes the experience much better. All right, we got Ashley Alan on board, who says, "Hey Joe, love the content. Thank you very much." Hobie Catters, sorry, from South Africa here. I have a question. Often on a Hobie 14, next to the base of the mast, there is a single cleat. Any ideas what this is for? Yes, I do have an idea. All right. Yeah, the Hobie 14, the guys who race them, this is quite a common modification that is fitted to the 14. Do I even need to draw this? This is how it kind of is there's the front beam, there's the mast, and then there'd be a cleat here. That's a cleat, by the way. And then what the idea is because the rig on the 14 is generally quite loose, what you want when you're sailing downwind is to make the rig much tighter and to get the mast more upright. So if this is the bridle wires, somehow, not the best picture probably, but hopefully you can see what I'm getting at here. There's the hulls like that. What you have is a line that goes from the bridle wires and comes back to the cleat. So what you do is when you're sailing upwind, you have that line loose. And then when you're sailing downwind and you want the rig tighter, mast more upright, because having a mast more upright downwind gives you more powerful. And also, if you're sailing in a kind of any waves or lumpy conditions, you don't want to have the mast banging around. So going downwind, you just crank that on, pull the mast upright, and everybody else is doing it. So if you're racing, if you're not racing, not essential, but I don't see why, if you've got the cleat there for it, why you wouldn't do it anyway. So there you go, Ashley Allen. I hope that helps. All right. So I'm just going to come out of the live chat for a second and go to my next preloaded question. Before I do so, I'm just going to take a commercial break for everyone watching later. And we're back in. All right. So the next question comes from Carl. Now, I did say to Carl I was going to answer his question first, but I've gone down the rabbit hole of all sorts of other questions first. So Carl is going to be taking part in the Ides of March regatta this weekend in Somerville Lake, Texas. And I think he's expecting there to be quite a light wind, because he said, what is the best way to get the best performance if the wind is very light indeed? So talking sub 5 knots. So let's talk first about boat setup. So one thing that you really have to set up before you put your boat in the water is batten tension. So there's basically two amounts of batten tension that you can put on. You can either put on a fairly neutral amount of batten tension where you just push the batten into the pocket, making sure it can't move. This is what I would call neutral batten tension. This is what we're doing on the F-18s on the Tornado, because we don't want to be forcing curve into the sail using the battens. Whereas with boats which are slightly less sophisticated, like the Hobie 16, the Dart 18, you might want to put a load of batten tension on, to put more curve into the sail so you get more power. But in less than 5 knots of wind, you certainly don't want to be making your sail massively curved. So if your sail is massively curved like that, looking down onto the sail, then if there's less than 5 knots of wind, the wind doesn't actually have the energy to travel around the sail. So you're going to lose some airflow off the sail, and it's going to be more prone to stalling. So less than 5 knots of wind, if you know that the wind is going to be light for the whole session, then just push the battens into the pocket, tie them so that they can't move, but don't actually push them in so much that you're putting a lot of curve into the sail. The second thing with the setup of the boat is the rig tension. Now, you may think that we should be cranking on as much rig tension as we possibly can if we're going to be going out sailing in really light winds. Well, in principle, yes, but actually in practice, no. We're not going to put the rig as tight as we possibly can, because when there's not so much wind, we need to make sure that the mast is going to be able to rotate. And if the rig is super tight, the mast won't be able to rotate. And if your mast isn't rotating, we are going to be sailing very slowly. So just pull the way of setting it up, pull the rig on as tight as you can, see how hard it is for the mast to rotate, and just ease off slightly on the jib halyard until the mast rotates quite freely. There we go. And then how would you go about sailing the boat actually in practice? Downhaul first. So there's 2 schools of thought with the downhaul. There's a school of thought that says in super light winds, you actually want to pull the downhaul on super tight like you would in super strong winds. But and the reason there is because, like what we're talking about here, that is going to flatten the sail off. So we're going to have a much flatter sail, which means that the airflow is going to be able to make use of the whole sail. Now, personally, I don't subscribe to that school of thought because psychologically it doesn't work for me. If I've pulled on loads of downhaul in very light winds, I'm not totally convinced. So what I would do, we haven't put much tension into the battens, so we have reduced the amount of curve in the sail. And then I would pull the downhaul on so that we've just taken the majority of the creases out of the sail, and that is enough. If then the wind increases a bit, so perhaps you need to pull the main sheet in a bit tighter because the wind's a bit stronger, and when you pull the main sheet in, a load more creases appear in the luff of the sail, then you need to pull the downhaul on a bit more. There we go. All right, main sheet, don't pull it on too much, because what can happen very easily is we can, by pulling on too much main sheet, we actually get more curve in the sail, and this is what is actually called hooking the sail. So we need to have the mainsail slightly eased just to make sure we're not hooking the mainsail, which again is going to destroy our airflow. Same thing goes for the jib sheet. Have the jib sheet slightly eased as well. And then on the upwind leg, we're going into trim now. So that's, if we look at the boat from the side, On the upwind leg, we want to have the boat absolutely flat. So not down at the front, not down at the back, absolutely flat. So that would usually involve the helm and the crew being in this kind of arena here at the front of the trampoline. The reason that we don't want to be putting the bows down significantly on the upwind leg, this goes for all types of boat, by the way, is because if we do that, we reduce the amount of rudder in the water too much, which will actually mean we're not getting that lift off the rudder blades. So having the boat completely flat is optimal. However, when we're sailing downwind, there are, in very light winds, there are massive gains to be made by getting the weight really far down forwards. We're not so worried about getting lift off the rudders on the downwind course when it's really light. So like we were saying about the Hobie 14 earlier with the bit of string, by getting further forwards, so if the bow goes down, what's it going to do to the angle of the mast? Yeah, it's going to bring it more upright, which is going to present more sail to the wind and make the boat effectively more powerful. And when we're doing that, we can actually sail very deep downwind, but maintaining our good speed. There we go. Right, so yeah, there we go, Carl. I hope that is helpful. But the other thing in really light winds is just stay as still as possible on the boat. Every time you move around the boat, just try to observe, are your movements on the boat making the boat bounce at all? Because every time the boat bounces a bit, again, you're disturbing the airflow on the sails. You're also disturbing the flow of water on the rudders. Try not to steer too much. There we go. All right. We're back in the live chat with a question from Declan, who says, have you seen bridle wires stretch over time? And related to rig tuning, should the mast shrouds be nominally loose? I believe Declan is talking about a getaway here. So I would say no to the bridle wires stretching. I think they're likely, before they really significantly stretch, you're likely to lose a few strands first. So if you lose a strand in your bridle wire, that is a pretty obvious sign that you need to replace it. But what can happen with your rigging over time, when you might feel it's the wires stretching, is actually the clevis pin, the pin that holds the rigging to the chain plate. This can wear over time, or the thimble, which is where you've got the loop in the wire, either at the top or the bottom, more likely at the top with the loop. You've got that hard part in there. That's called the thimble, by the way. If that can crack, and if it cracks, that is effectively going to make that wire longer, in the same way that if your clevis pin starts wearing, that is going to effectively make the wire longer as well. There we go. All right. And should the shrouds be nominally loose? Yeah, I'm not sure on the getaway. I would run a getaway if I was going to take one out with a similar amount of rig tension as on something like a Hobie 16. So you'd want to have the rig in lighter winds tight. So when you grab the shroud, you can maybe move it this much. And then when the wind is really strong, if you are going to adjust the rig, I would have it a little bit looser so there's that much movement in the shroud. I would say that would be enough. Right, we've got Joachim on board. I'm late and it's cutting off really bad here. Sorry to hear that. I'm hoping everybody is having quite a smooth transmission. Laser can hurt, says Joachim. I lost my LCA. Ooh, in a laser. All right. So Dave, Hobie 16 Amateur Hour says, is there a time and a date of the week set up for the Discord? No, you just get on there any time of the day and type in. And there's going to be times when there's more people there than others, but there's quite a few people signed up there now. So I think it is reasonably lively. But yeah, like Declan says, it's open 24/7 for the community. All right, Dave says, all you Americans start planning for Wildwind Vasiliki September 2024. Third Thursday is the big race week. Let's fill up the joint. And he says, here we go. This is the selling point. First round is on Dave. All right, so back to the preloaded questions. So this one's from Sailing CV Scruffy, who says, and this is relating to the downhaul, why is having the downhaul tight faster and easier to manage in heavy winds? All right. So the downhaul is a progressive control. And I think a lot of people who don't watch Joyrider TV perhaps aren't using the downhaul as much as they could be. So if this is our, let's draw the sail from the side like this. So just going to very quickly tell the complete story of the downhaul. When we pull on the minimum, when we have no downhaul on at all, then the sail has no shape at all. Here we're talking about fully battened sails, which we have on catamarans and on performance boats. So fully battened sails where the battens are the full length of the sail. On a boat which doesn't have fully battened sails, like some more traditional styles of monohull, for example, you can sail the boat with no downhaul or Cunningham on at all, and it will be fine in lighter winds. But with the downhaul or Cunningham, what happens is, firstly, let's stick to our catamaran, shall we? We want to pull on the minimum amount of downhaul. And the way that we kind of know where the minimum is we pull it hard enough so we're getting rid of the majority of the creases in the front of the sail. When we've got the downhaul pulled on to the minimum, what you will find is all of the battens in the sail will take on a good amount of shape, curve in the sail. This is going to make the sail the most powerful, that minimum amount of downhaul. If then you pull the main sheet in, what that is going to do is that's going to pull the sail down as well. So pulling the main sheet in might actually cause more creases to appear in the sail. So if that happens when we're pulling the main sheet in, that means we need to pull the downhaul on more. All right, just like to say thanks very much to Philip for sending in a super sticker there. Thank you very much. super stickers are a great way to say, yes, this information today has been valuable. Thanks very much, Philip. Great to have you with us as always. And thanks for your contribution to the fund. Back to the downhaul. So that's finding the minimum amount of downhaul. So when we pull the main sheet in, if we get more creases in the front of the sail, then we want to pull the downhaul a bit more until those creases disappear, the majority of them. And then when we pull on more downhaul beyond the minimum, what we're doing is we're flattening the sail. So with the minimum, we're going to have a good amount of curve in the sail, which is going to be quite an even curve. As we pull on more downhaul, we're going to get less curve in the sail, but as well as that, the center of effort, the deepest part of the curve, is going to start moving forwards. And then when we have a lot of downhaul on, the only bit of curve, this is the mast, by the way, this is the front. The only bit of curve in the sail at all is going to be right towards the front. And so in answer to the question, why is it faster? Because by having this curve further forwards, bringing the center of effort further forwards in the sail, like here, it's going to pull the boat forwards more. Whereas when the center of effort is in the middle of the sail, that's going to pull perpendicular to the curve in the sail. And what that is going to do is make the boat want to heel over or fly a hull, but not necessarily go faster. So this is why more downhaul will make it faster. Now, why is it easier? Because we're flattening the sail off. So the sail is going to become less powerful. There we go. I think that's a pretty good explanation. I hope that is going to help you there, Sailing SV Scruffy. Thanks for asking. All right. So Declan has to go, but we'll see Declan on Discord. If you check out any of the recent videos on JOYRIDER TV, there will be a link to the Discord server there. Goodbye to Andy and Adele. Hope you have some great sailing on the Tiger for a day on the water. All right. And Ryan says, did I hear #getaway? Yes, you did. Declan is talking about tuning his getaway up because, as we all know, and I'm actually going to do, I haven't made the announcement video yet, but I will do the speed stick getaway challenge is on. Whoever can sail a getaway the fastest this year is going to receive a Malcheski Composites telescopic tiller extension as a prize. Massive. There we go. I think I will end on that small bombshell. Yeah, so get your getaway training in as much as you can. And thanks to everybody for tuning in. It's always a pleasure. But next week, we're going to stick to the same time as this week for the Q&A. Hopefully, I'll have something for you on Sunday, but I haven't put anything together yet. And I'm attending a training course tomorrow. Yes. Happy days. All right. Oh, and thanks, Christian. And thanks to everybody. And I'll see you soon with some more on JOYRIDER TV. Before you leave, please, if you could just hit the like button. That means more people will have this video put in front of them. Thank you very much.